Stasiland. Chapter 20, would you believe it? Here we are. It's been a long time coming. I'm going to try it a little bit differently. Normally I I read the chapter ahead of you and then make notes and then record the podcast, but it takes forever because essentially it's doing it twice and I can't do 2 a day at that speed. So I'm just going to wing it this time and just hopefully pause as we go and, make notes with you in real time. So it might be a bit more mumbly and a bit more hesitant, that's the word. So let's give it a go and see what happens. Oh, hang on, I need to plug in my phone. That's a good start, isn't it? I think it's plugged in. Oh my word. Teams is going crazy. Oh, sorry. Some Gregorian monks there, just let's get past this. Here we go. Right. Stasiland.
Street lamps make puddles of yellow light on the ground. I think of my friend in his room, singing himself happy. Chapter 20. Herr Bock of Golm. The phone calls keep coming. Bock. A quiet voice, an old man's heavy breath on the receiver. In response to your notice. Ah, yes, Herr Bock. Thank you for calling me.
So you'll notice that she starts off the chapter a little bit like in media res that we saw last time with back to the phone calls. So we're sort of instantly snapped back into that narrative of the phone calls, the investigative work that she's been doing, putting the adverts out to get more Stasi men to contact her.
Before I can explain what I'm doing, he says, I can tell you all there is to know about the Ministry of State Security. Everything you need, young woman, I can give you, because I was a professor at the training academy of the ministry. In fact, I taught Spezialdisziplin. Oh, I say, ja? Spezialdisziplin, he repeats. Do you know what that means? No, I don't. Spezialdisziplin is the science of recruiting informers. Spezialdisziplin is the art, he says, of the handler. He pauses. You should come to my house. It is directly opposite the academy at Golm. Do you know where that is? No, I don't. He gives me train and bus directions. The more prone to getting lost one is, the more one tries to compensate. My grandmother has a small Spirex notepad bound discreetly to an undergarment as an aid memoir, and I have a lot of maps. I have a 1986...
Oh, hang on a second. Yeah, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? I'm just trying to think if you'll know what Spirex is, if you've ever seen a Spirex notepad. It's a word I've not read for a long time, or seen for a long time, but I remember lots of Spirex notepads when I was a kid. It's those, not to patronise you, I'm sure you've seen them, but it's the things with the metal spiral thing at the top. Sorry, I bet you're shaking your head thinking, yeah, we know. But yeah, taping it to an undergarment, that's very thunder, isn't it? That's very sort of, I don't know, base and banal and somehow a bit seedy. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way I read it.
Map of Potsdam, in which the areas where there were Stasi buildings, anything from bunkers to multi-storey edifices to shooting ranges, are left blank. On another, a 1984 map of East Berlin, entire city blocks and streets in Stasi areas are simply not represented. They are pale orange gaps in the map. Out of curiosity, I look up Golm and find that it is a gap on the map on the outskirts of Potsdam. I follow Herr Bock's instructions. I take the train from Berlin to the end of the line, and then I take 2 buses. His house is one in a street of identical semi-detached dwellings, each with a patch of lawn and a wire gate in front of it.
Just a thought there about the map idea. I mean, this is not particularly Funder's style. This is just literally what the Stasi did, but it's so bizarre, isn't it, to control the maps, which themselves are a symbol, aren't they? They're a sort of a synecdoche in themselves of the actual place. They're just a visual representation of the bigger place. But to be controlled to the point that it's redacting actual places on the map is fascinating. I mean, it's a bit like the London Underground, isn't it? I mean, it's, you see the iconic tube map, and it's not actually what the tube looks like. It's just the way that we're sort of presented with it, and it's but we accept that as being true, and it's just an interesting version of what the truth is. But not much you can do with that. It's an interesting point to make. You're welcome.
It seems to be the only street that exists here, as though a town planner had an idea for a settlement that was begun before he thought better of it. The houses are covered in rough grey concrete, knobbly all over, as if from cold. None of them, including Herr Bock's, looks inhabited. It is late afternoon. Herr Bock's living room is overwhelmingly beige and brown. Brown linoleum and dark veneer wall units, a brown couch, and Herr Bock sitting camouflaged in it in a beige and brown diamond pattern acrylic cardigan.
We've seen Brown before. We've been to Browntown before, haven't we? In previous chapters when we're talking about those East Germany GDR sort of interior design with that brown linoleum. So that pre-modifier used as an anaphoric reference there. Well, in fact, there's epistrophe, isn't there? In fact, no, there's not. There's anadiplosis there of brown linoleum and dark veneer wall units, brown couch, brown diamond pattern acrylic cardigan. So it's like there's anaphora as well there. Sort of just the whole thing is overwhelmingly. Does it say? It does say overwhelmingly, but actually is overwhelmingly brown, and the text is overwhelmingly brown as well. We are in Browntown.
He has thick square glasses that give him underwater eyes and an overbite. A moustache hangs on his upper lip. His voice is so soft, I have to lean into him.
Look at this. We can't possibly pass by a description of somebody. Herr Bock there, with his thick square glasses that give him underwater eyes. Underwater eyes. Imagine that. Quite a good description, isn't it? The way that the lenses refract. Is it refract or reflect? Refract, isn't it? Refract the light and make his eyes look weirdly sort of distorted. Brilliant. But, not flattering, but it's typically thunder. And an overbite as well. A moustache hangs on his upper lip. Yeah, okay, that's it.
You must not use my name, he says as an opener. I agree. He relaxes back into the couch and starts to hold forth. He says that the ministry was divided into two main sections. Internal, called defence, and external, counter-espionage. He taught a course for Stasi officers destined to work in defence. This title is euphemistic. The internal service of the Stasi was designed to spy on and control the citizens of the GDR. The only way to make sense of its name is to understand the Stasi as defending the government against the people. I take notes like a student. Herr Bock outlines each department of the defence. I write, main departments, economy, state apparatus, church, sport, culture, counter-terrorism. East Germany is a small country of only 17 million people, but these Stasi divisions and sub-departments were replicated throughout its territory no fewer than 15 times. In every corner of the nation, every aspect of your life had its mirror nemesis in a department. Let us take, says Herr Bock, as a specific instance the department of the church. The church, pastors and people, was the only area of society in the GDR where oppositional thought could find a structure and could coalesce into something real. Consequently, theological colleges attracted bright and independent-minded students. All our people had to have theological training themselves, so they'd pass for members of the churches they infiltrated. He crosses an ankle onto his knee. How did we do it, you might ask? He snaps his fingers. Answer: we went into the theological colleges and recruited the students themselves. He rubs his hands together. They make a papery sound. You know, he says, we were supremely effective. It is not widely known that in the end, 65% of the church leaders were informers for us, and the rest of them were under surveillance anyhow.
So, just those typical and very familiar cuts sort of back to the present with him crossing an ankle onto his knee, rubbing his hands together, making a papery sound. I would say she punctuates the narrative of Herr, what's he called, Bock, with his actions and his movements and his very, very banal details that we don't need, but it's nice to have them. It makes it more real. It puts us in the room with them. But yeah, she very much punctuates the narrative with it, as she always does whenever she's interviewing somebody. There's always the punctuation there of the present and what's happening and the way in which they're delivering it. Often about appearances as well, which we've got a bit there. Sort of hands rubbing together. It sounds quite grotesque, really. It sounds like he's quite proud and yet making a papery sound, something a bit sort of I don't know, a bit unwell about him, I suppose. But if his skin's so dry.
I once saw a note on a Stasi file from early 1989 that I would never forget. In it, a young lieutenant alerted his superiors to the fact that there were so many informers in church opposition groups at demonstrations that they were making these groups appear stronger than they really were. In one of the most beautiful ironies I have ever seen, he dutifully noted that it appeared that, by having swelled the ranks of the opposition, the Stasi was giving the people heart to keep demonstrating against them. Herr Bock uncrosses his legs and spreads his knees. His feet, in socks and sandals, barely touch the floor. Outside, the light is leaving us. He is on a roll. Now to our working methods. These were set out in directives. There were 4 main areas. I write.
Back to the description again, the socks and sandals there. I mean, that's quite a picture, isn't it? And I think when she gives us these descriptions, it's sort of been presented as being unbiased and literal and real. But I think she's inviting judgment, isn't she? When she says socks and sandals barely touching the floor, I don't know. She presents quite a pathetic image, or is that maybe me being harsh? Maybe it's me being harsh. I don't know. And if you wear socks and sandals, I do apologise. I didn't mean to offend. I'm really sorry. But I just wonder if she's telling us that to make us view him in a different way. I might be wrong, but that's just how I see it.
Working methods. Exposing the moles. Enttarnung. Recruitment of informers. Operational control of persons. Surveillance. Security checks. Herr Bock's passion is for recruitment. Directive 179, he cries. 179. On the conversion of and the collaboration with informers. He takes out a handkerchief and wipes the corners of his mouth. There was nothing willy-nilly about it. We had to decide where in society, on objective principles, there was a need for an informer.
Do you know, just thinking about it, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, you may disagree, to highlight all these comments, the punctuation of actions. So things like taking out the handkerchief and wiping the corners of his mouth, uncrossing his legs and spreading his knees. It'd be useful to see just how the narrative... Sorry, I'm yawning. That's why I went quiet there. I don't know. I get to this point in the day. It's now 3:00, and I just find it hard, really. With lots of things going on in the background with Year 11. I should be teaching Year 11 at the moment, so I'm trying to sort of field questions from them as well. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. What was I saying? Oh yeah, to colour code the narrative and the present tense direction, almost stage directions, really, the way they're presented. Just be good to see how formulaic and how regularly she does that, because it's easy to read past them because they're so uninteresting and banal. You just read past them, but actually it's very formulaic, and I think if you're analysing, as indeed you are, Anna Funder's style, it's well worth having that up your sleeve or in your back pocket, ready to whip out.
For example, we might need one in an apartment block, a factory, or a supermarket. Then a rational evaluation would be made. What sort of person do we need here? What qualities should they have? We would find 3 or 4 people who fitted the bill. Without their knowledge, they would be comprehensively observed and evaluated in order to determine whether they could be approached or not. Most often, he says, people we approached would inform for us. It was very rare that they would not. However, sometimes we felt that we might need to know where their weak points were, just in case. For instance, if we wanted a pastor, we'd find out if he'd had an affair or had a drinking problem, things that we could use as leverage. Mostly, though, people just said yes. It is dark now, but Herr Bock seems to be brightening right up. The third method was operational control of persons. What does that mean? I ask. Well, he says, they were controlled using means and methods. All the means and methods allowable could be used to control them. He puts his palms together, then closes them.
Oh, lovely. We won't pass up some antimetabole while it's there, is it? I mean, admittedly it's not fun writing it, but some lovely antimetabole there. They were controlled using means and methods. All the means and methods allowable could be used to control them. Nice to see you nice. Antimetabole.
Up between his legs. It got pretty tough for some people, you'd have to say, he says. These were the allowable means and methods. Telephone tapping, mobilization of informers, shadow surveillance by observational forces, use of investigative forces, use of technical forces, including the installation of technology, bugs, in living quarters of the subject, post and parcel interception. That leaves only one thing I can think of. Did you use smell sampling? Oh, no, he says. That was for criminals. Well, who were the people you were doing the operational control on? They were enemies. Oh, How did you know they were enemies? Well, he says in his soft voice, once an investigation was started into someone, that meant there was suspicion of enemy activity. This was perfect dictator logic. We investigate you, therefore you are an enemy. We searched for enemies in all the areas I mentioned, in the factories, in the state apparatus, the church, the schools, and so on. In fact,
so asymptotic list there to show the range and the depth and the efforts that they went to investigate people.
He says, as time went on, there was more and more work to do because the definition of enemy became wider and wider. I put my pen in the crease of my notebook and peer into the dimness in his direction. Herr Bock says other professors at the academy spent their careers expanding the reach of the paragraphs of the law so as to be able to encompass more enemies in them. In fact, their promotions depended on it, he says. We talked about it among ourselves up on the 6th floor over there. An arm gestures towards the building opposite. And I don't mind telling you that some of us actually thought the paragraphs became a little too wide. I nod. If by the mere fact of investigating someone you turn them into an enemy of the state, you could potentially busy yourself with the entire population. Too wide, he continues, to be properly carried out, within available resources, I mean. What qualities did you look for in an informer? I ask Herr Bock. Well, he says, leaning back and clasping both hands behind his head, he had to be able to adapt to new situations quickly and make himself belong wherever we put him. And at the same time, he had to have a stable enough character to keep it clear in his mind that he was reporting to us. And above all else, he says, looking straight at me, his eyes distorted and magnified through the glasses, he needed to be honest, faithful, and trustworthy. I look back at him. I feel my eyes, too, getting wider. I mean, only towards the ministry, of course, he corrects himself. We weren't interested if he betrayed anyone else. He leans his head to one side in thought. In point of the fact, he had to, didn't he says. Perhaps, he continues, this ability is not a great quality in a human being, but it was vital for our work. I have to say that it is the same in all secret services. But it is not. Few secret services have informers reporting meticulously on activities at kindergartens and dinner parties and sporting events across the nation.
So this sounds like hyperbole, doesn't it? But actually what she's saying is true. They did have those things happening in kindergartens and dinner parties and sporting events. So a triadic structure there of what seems like hyperbole, but of course is all the more powerful because it's not hyperbole, it's literal. So it's a powerful undermining of what Herr Bock is saying to her. What was in it for the informers? I want to know how much they were paid.
Oh, it was pitiful, actually, Bock admits. They were hardly paid at all. Every week they had to meet with their handlers, and they were not paid for that. Every now and then they might have been given some money as a reward for a specific piece of information. Sometimes they were given a birthday present. So why did they do it? Well, some of them were convinced of the cause, he says. But I think it was mainly because informers got the feeling that, doing it, they were somebody. You know, someone was listening to them for a couple of hours a week, taking notes. They felt they had it over other people. To my mind, there is something warmer and more human about the carnality of other dictatorships, say in Latin America. That's interesting, isn't it, that she herself there talks about things being more human, and it just reveals, to me anyway, I think, the tendency for Funda to look for the human aspects in this story. And there she's sort of, saying that there's something warmer and more human about other dictatorships in Latin and South America, rather than the GDR. So it's good to sort of prove that, I think, isn't it? Because we've suspected it all along that she does tend to look for the warmth and the humanity in things, warts and all. But here it's nice to have her confirm that. Sorry, the phone's locked itself. Bear with. One can more easily understand a desire for cases stuffed with money and drugs, for women and weapons and blood. These obedient, grey men doing it with their underpaid informers on a weekly basis seem at once more stupid and more sinister. Betrayal clearly has its own reward. The small, deep human satisfaction of having one up on someone else. It is the psychology of the mistress, and this regime used it as fuel.
Yeah, so the polysyndeton there of, well, in fact, the hendiadys almost of money and drugs, and then the polysyndeton of women and weapons and blood. It's sort of that, it paints that criminal underworld as being more overwhelming because of that technique there, and then contrasting it with the obedient grey men and using that pre-modifier grey as well, juxtaposing it against the weapons, the women and the blood and the money and the drugs. It's sort of, it makes this seem so cold and, well, you have to use her words, cold and sort of clinical and just a bit tragic, really, isn't it? There's not even any real reward at the end of it, apart from just the sort of intrinsic reward of feeling superior to somebody else. It is fascinating stuff. And as she says, it's the psychology of the mistress, and this regime used it as fuel. So two metaphors there, the mistress and the fuel. The mistress being that sort of idea about having secrets and blackmail and leverage, and then using it as fuel to power a machine, this regime as a machine.
Herr Bock is still talking, and I am still taking notes. Every meeting with an informer had to take place in a covert location. In fact, he says proudly, twisting his neck towards the stairs, I have a covert location here, upstairs in my house. His upstairs bedroom is still fitted out for the purpose, with a round table and brown vinyl-covered chairs. Every informer, he says, knew exactly what he or she was doing. He reaches behind himself to switch on a small lamp. I look at my watch. It's 9 o'clock. If you don't mind me asking, I say, what is it you do now, Herr Bock? I am a business advisor. I don't say anything. You look surprised, he says. You are wondering what I could possibly know about business? Yes, I am. I work for West German firms who come here to buy up East German assets. I mediate between them and the East Germans because the Westerners don't speak their language. The Easterners are wary because of their fancy clothes, their Mercedes-Benzes and so on. Terrific. Here he is once more getting the trust of his people and selling them cheap. Stasi men are, by and large, less affected by the unemployment that has consumed East Germany since the wall came down. Many of them have found work in insurance, telemarketing and real estate. None of these businesses existed in the GDR, but the Stasi were just like that. Up on the 6th floor, over there. He gestures again with his head in the direction of the academy. No one ever thought that it would all come. Insurance, telemarketing and real estate. None of these businesses existed in the GDR, but the Stasi were, in effect, trained for them, schooled in the art of convincing people to do things against their own self-interest.
So at the start of that paragraph there, the holophrastic sentence, terrific, and obviously use of sarcasm and, well, irony there. Irony twice. So good I said it twice. And then, yeah, and the asyndetic list of industries in which they found work, insurance, telemarketing and real estate. And the fact that, you know, here he is exploiting his own people, his East Germany people, you know, to sort of, well, to exploit them and get more money out of them in the interests of the West and his own self-interest. So there's a real ugliness about this man, and she clearly judges him and invites us to do the same.
We never thought, no one ever thought, that it would all come to an end, he says. It would not have occurred to anyone that our country could somehow cease to be, just like that. Up on the 6th floor, over there, he gestures again with his head in the direction of the academy across the road. At the end of 1989, we used to joke around. We'd say, last one here, turn the lights out. Because at the end, there'd be no one left in the GDR. I think I should leave too. I thank Herr Bock and pack up and walk to the bus stop. There is only one street lamp along this road, and it is right here. So that the bus will stop for me, I have to stand in its cone of light. I can't see much beyond it. There are no lights on in any of the buildings around. Here I am, standing in a blank on the map, lit up for all to see. According to the timetable, it is 45 minutes until the next bus comes. In 10 minutes' time, the cold will be through to my bones. I pick up my little pack and walk back to Herr Bock's. There are no lights on, but where could he have gone? No cars passed. The gate is stuck and it rattles. A piece of wire I can't see bites into my palm. I imagine Herr Bock looking through his curtains, and in fact, the moment the gate springs wide, he opens the door. He is chewing. I think I might call a taxi, if you don't mind, I say. It's 3/4 of an hour till the next bus comes, and I'll miss the connection for the Berlin train. May I come in? It is dim inside. He has turned off the lamp to watch television, and now he switches that off too. He swallows and says, "I don't know anything about taxis. I don't think they come here." "Let's try calling one, shall we?" I say. He is enjoying himself here in the dark.
"It might be a while," he answers. "They probably have to come from Potsdam."
But he finds a phone book in the gloom anyway and calls a cab company. We sit down. My eyes are adjusting. He takes something off a plate.
"You are not afraid of the dark, are you?"
he says, mouth full. It is very dark.
"This way, we can see the taxi come," he says.
I don't see how. All his curtains are drawn, and even if there were any light in here, no chink of it could escape to the street. I start to fiddle around in my bag, looking for I don't know what. I am buying time to think and avoiding peering at him. I am tired and hungry, and this language is not coming easily anymore. This man, with his brown cocoon and his conspiratorial room, is unlikely to touch me, but I resent his enjoyment in having me at his mercy. I am worried the taxi will see a dark house in a dark street and turn around and leave. And I am thinking of ways out of here when he gets up and peeks through the curtains. He does this in a way so as not to let any movement be seen. But he turns from the window, disappointed.
"That was quick,"
he says. I grab my things and I leave him there, all lights out in the GDR.
Wow, what a sinister end to that section. It's awful, isn't it? Yeah, and that reference back to the turning the lights out there, all lights out in the GDR, obviously is an extended metaphor for the GDR being now defunct and closed down after the end of the 1980s and the fall of the wall. So that's it. Not a great deal, because a lot of it was dialogue on that one, so not a great deal to write down. So next one, chapter 21, Frau Paul. So I will be with you again for that one next.